Unbelievable, wild stuff.
And an incredible catch.
Ridiculous. What a showcase event it'll be.
The college football playoff quarterfinals begin tomorrow and continue New Year's Day.
We're almost there, people. The college football playoff quarterfinals will be off and running tomorrow evening as Miami will take on Ohio State on ESPN. Remember, Miami beat Texas A&M in round one. Ohio State was on a bye. The Buckeyes are the reigning CFP champs. You know who's here? Paul Finebaum is joining us now. Help us break this down a little bit. Is there a recipe for Miami to knock off Ohio State and upset the Buckeyes? What do you think, Paulie?
There is a recipe. What Miami has to do is replicate what it did on the road at Kyle Field against Texas A&M, and then do a little bit of stealing Indiana's recipe against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. In both cases, Miami and Indiana harassed the quarterback, and I think that's what the Miami defense, which is very good, by the way, has to do to Julian Sayin. The problem is he's got the two elite receivers that everybody in the country is talking about, but I think it's a narrow path, Shay. I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm not crazy about Carson Beck. He's probably ranked at the bottom of the quarterbacks in the CFP field. Remember, he was the star quarterback for Georgia, who decided to come out for the NFL, and then he got injured in the SEC championship game and then went to Miami. He has been good, but he is not elite. And I think to win this game, Miami is going to need near flawless play from him.
So Carson Beck did say he's comfortable in these kinds of situations because of his experience at Georgia. He's not rattled by the moment. I don't know if that plays into your recipe, but go ahead, DD.
Well, yeah, the recipe does have to be a Carson Beck that is a big game Beck. And this is the guy that he's turned the ball over in their losses, 6 interceptions so far this season when he's been under pressure. He needs to be the guy that has to control the ball. This game is going to be won with Miami on the offensive line of scrimmage, control and giving him protection and allowing him the space to convert on some of those third downs. Ohio State is 6th defensively and stopping teams from converting on third downs. Miami has to convert that. They have to control the ball. They have to control some of that time. And I think if they can get over 20 points and defend as well as they possibly can, Carson Beck has to be the guy to do that, and that gives them a shot. It is a long shot, but that's the shot.
Buckeyes double-digit favorites in this one. I'm not going to talk to you tomorrow. Do you think they can do it, or do you think the Buckeyes are going to win?
I think the Buckeyes are going to do. I think the Buckeyes are going to win. But, yeah.
But there's a slight chance.
There's a slight chance.
Paulie,
I'm trying to give a little bit of hope.
A little hope.
A little hope.
Paulie, what do you think? You think the Buckeyes got them? Double-digit favorites, a lot of points.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think Miami is capable of making this an interesting game, but I agree. I just don't think Ohio State. The only thing you have to worry about with Ohio State, and this is for all the bye teams, they all lost last year. Are they a little rusty? I don't think so. But ultimately, I just don't think Miami has a complete package. But Miami is a more capable team than I think some of the people have given them credit. They had that big win early against Notre Dame. They let it get away against Louisville and SMU, but they came back strong in that game against A&M.
It's a good point Paul brought up, though. Every team that had a bye last year in the CFP did end up losing that game, which is wild to even think about that the extra rest actually turned into rust. Let's go to the Rose Bowl. My Hoosiers are going to take on the Crimson Tide. A year ago, I was pained by the Hoosiers in the CFP because they played Notre Dame. They weren't ready for the moment. But this year, Indiana comes in as number one. They're undefeated so far this season. They're the best team in the nation. As for Alabama, some controversy on them even being in the field. Then they had a thriller in the first round against Oklahoma. Bama trailed 17-0 in the second quarter of its first round game against the Sooners, but the Tide got a key fourth down conversion midway through the second quarter, went on to score the game's next 27 points. The offense just came to life at that point, and the Tide then now advanced, obviously, to play Indiana. And so, Paulie, will Alabama upset my Hoosiers?
Yes, but and I don't know why I'm saying this, because somehow I have a feeling you have the room and the production room rolling on this tape, and I'm going to be back here Friday looking like a complete fool. But I'm rolling with the Tide for a couple of reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with the actual game. I think the rest, maybe, or the rust, I should say, could help Alabama a little bit. They got that great experience being on the road. Indiana's sitting around and probably doing way too much thinking about who they're playing. This is the number one seed, but you have to wonder, Shay, you're an IU graduate. You can explain it better than I can. You're playing the biggest name in college football in the Rose Bowl. You cannot let that get inside your head. On paper, there's no question Indiana is the better team. This is one of the most remarkable stories in college football history. Shay, I thought last year was a little fluky. I didn't think it could happen again. Curt Cignetti has shut people like me up. And my, would he ever shut us up with a win over the Crimson Tide Thursday.
I will say this about Curt Cignetti. And look, this is unfamiliar territory for me as well. And when I was in college, Indiana football, we used to take our promo pictures when we played Ohio State because it was the only time the entire stadium was filled with red and white. So this is unfamiliar territory for me as well. But Indiana has met the moment at every turn. When they had big games on the road, I'm thinking about at Oregon, etc. When they played Ohio State, they came with tenacity, they came with being ferocious, and I feel like the moment is not going to be too big for them. Curt Cignetti just has this way of kind of dimming the light a little bit. I mean, like, let's focus on what we need to focus on. I don't think the moment's going to be too big. With that being said, Alabama does have the most experience of any college football team in the playoff. They've played the most there. Go ahead,
Shay, rest easy. Paul Finebaum, the mighty Paul
Help me!
the best he had. The best he had for you was that Indiana may overthink this and be a little bit nervous. The team that just beat Ohio State is going to overthink this. This is the lock for me of the college football playoffs right now. This is going to be a blowout. They don't stand a chance. Alabama cannot run the ball. And yes, they have a great quarterback.
And IU can, by the way.
Yes, they can. And we have seen what IU does against great quarterbacks so far this season. This is going to be, whatever the spread is, double it. This is going to be a blowout.
Whatever the spread is, which I think it's 7 points. 7-point spread right now. Double it, he says. So make it 14. Paula, you agree? He doesn't. I don't know why he said that.
Listen, I don't gamble, but I'm loading up on that one. Alabama plus 14. Please give it to me. I'm putting my house on the line as well.
All right. I'm just going to, for my sake, and since I am hosting the show, say Indiana wins. But how much of the SEC reputation relies on these quarterfinal outcomes? Because last year we did see the SEC struggle a little bit in the CFP, right? Ohio State, the eventual champion. How much do you think their reputation matters in these kinds of games? Indiana, Alabama, et cetera. What do you think, Paul?
Well, this game matters a great deal because the other game you have two SEC teams playing, so one will advance to the Fiesta Bowl. But if Alabama loses this game, then things start to get really tight for the SEC. And what I mean by that is, so let's say you move Alabama aside and out of the playoffs, and then it comes down to likely Georgia playing Ohio State. And let's just say Ohio State beats Georgia a week from Thursday. The SEC is shut out again of the playoffs, of the national championship game. That would be 3 straight years. And Shay, that's just unheard of. I mean, Alabama alone used to be in the national championship game just about every year, forgetting the SEC when Georgia came into the picture a few years ago and has been in a couple of national championship games, which and won 2 in a row, of course, against Alabama and TCU. So there is a great deal on the line for Alabama, especially losing to Indiana. And I don't mean to harp on this because we all know what Indiana has done. But Shay, I live in Alabama, and walking on the streets, the respect is not there from Alabama fans. They don't understand how Indiana got there, and they're going to have an even more difficult time understanding if Indiana wins. And that goes for the SEC at large, because to me, it felt like this whole season was about the SEC getting back to the national championship game and winning. And remember, it used to be that Texas was going to be that team when the season began. They were number 1 in the country until Ohio State beat them. So to reiterate my point and to make my point, the SEC needs a couple of wins, and they need Alabama to advance to give the league a possibility of at least 2 schools in the Final Four. Otherwise, it's going to get very nerve-wracking.
Would you mind telling your neighbors to maybe watch some Big Ten football? Just a little. Occasionally flip on a Big Ten game. You know, that just, if they wouldn't mind, that would be great. Go ahead.
Look, I live in SEC country too, and a lot of people in Atlanta are thinking that Alabama's going to blow them out just because of the names here. I think the Alabama-Indiana thing says more about college football as a whole, that you have a powerhouse like Alabama as an underdog against Indiana in the state of college football. In terms of the SEC, I mean, as Finebaum says, I said, we both lived there. There's nothing that can change SEC fans' idea about their dominance. They're always going to believe.
Just means more.
Right. They're always going to believe that they're due for a national championship. Nothing is going to change that at all. Now, nationally, whatever. But in terms of SEC and SEC country, there is always that belief, and that's going to be unwavering.
We'll see what happens in this game. I do think the way that Texas A&M lost also after having such a great season, Paul, to Miami obviously leaves a little bit of a bitter taste in your mouth. If Alabama does come out and look extremely flat, which they did not come out great against Oklahoma. Obviously, they came back to win that game and all was fine and good. But if it was trending in the direction it was going to go against Oklahoma, I think it would have even put a more sour taste in people like your neighbors' mouths going forward. So we'll see how this all turns out. Paulie's going to be back with us a little bit later on. We'll see him later, and he can talk some more smack to me about Indiana. Okay, no Mahomes or Burrow in the postseason. Should this be the year then? Josh Allen finally gets to the Super